Hi everyone, my name is Miranda Rose and I'm going to be discussing conflict resolution. Imagine you have a disagreement with a friend, coworker, family member, but in this disagreement you're able to sit down, both sides are able to be seen and heard and communicate what kind of they're feeling and thinking through the situation, but nobody's walking away mad, upset. You're able to resolve it and move forward and feel much better. Conflict resolution is a skill that I think everybody truly needs to have, and it's something we learn very early on. It's part of going to school, is learning to communicate with our peers. And it's really important that we do this because it's such a powerful tool for human interaction. So let's take a look at conflict resolution and what it truly is. According to the author, Siddell, conflict is a part of normal, healthy relationships. After all, two people cannot be expected to agree on absolutely everything all the time. The key is to not fear or avoid conflict, but to learn how to resolve it in a healthy way. When conflict is mismanaged, it causes great harm to a relationship, but when it is handled respectfully and positively, you're able to see great results and everybody's kind of growing. So let's just imagine we all got better at conflict resolution. We wouldn't have so many people upset with one another. Everybody would feel seen and heard, and everybody would be able to communicate what their needs are. I'm sure our friendships and our relationships, our personal lives, our families, all of that would be strengthened by being open-minded and just listening to the other side and hearing them out and then figuring out what our common goal is. So one of the major strategies for conflict resolution is knowing and understanding kind of what conflict styles everybody has. So for example, there are people who tend to avoid, there are people who tend to want to compete to win, there are people who will compromise and collaborate. Sometimes you could find yourself in a situation where you're collaborative, and then other times you can find yourself in a situation where you need to win. Let's say you're having a debate with your parents and you just don't agree with them politically or whatever it may be, but that is kind of some examples of conflict. The UC Berkeley University had quoted, "To manage conflict effectively, supervisors need strong communication skills. This involves fostering an open environment which employees feel comfortable discussing work-related concerns by actively listening, asking clarifying questions, striving to understand their employees, and asking them their perspective on the matter," which is very important. And part of the reason that's so important is active listening. So imagine you were a teenager and your mom is telling you to do something and you're listening, but you're not really. Active listening is, okay, I hear you're asking me to do X, Y, and Z, and you want this done by this date. And then they can respond and say, yes, that is exactly what I'm asking you. That is active listening. So when you're not able to repeat what they are asking you to do, you're not fully actively listening and you're not fully participating in that communication or that conversation. Another way to be clear and respectful, and this is something that I'm practicing myself as well, is using I statements. So instead of saying, this person made me feel this way, I feel because of this situation, or I feel because this happened, this is where I'm at, and this is where I would like to eventually get to. That is clear and respectful communication. And I statements are something many therapists also kind of tell their clients to do. Another effective resolution in kind of everyday conflict is, let's say when we're handling a disagreement in a group project setting, but we're all calm, we're all able to hear each other out, we're all able to separate what parts everybody wants to do, but then still come back together as a group to kind of review what we want to do moving forward. That's only going to strengthen our experience in that class. That's only going to strengthen our experience in how we communicate with each other and how we kind of learn to take those skills and tailor it to the work field as we grow. And according to Harvard's program on negotiation, one effective conflict resolution strategy is to recognize that fairness can look different to each person involved. In many disputes, both sides genuinely believe that their positions are justified, reflecting normal psychological tendencies rather than mere stubbornness. Another thing we need to take into consideration is cultural differences and perspectives. So let's say I'm somebody who is biracial, I'm Afro Latina. On my grandma's side, the Hispanic side, they communicate a little bit differently than how my stepdad's side, who is just white, communicates. So I grew up kind of learning how to talk to different people, but they are more open to cracking jokes and being lenient with each other. So it's very different. So let's recap what we learned. And let me open. So for example, in this first slide, it says what a person knows about themselves and what is known by others. Assertiveness and cooperativeness. So competing is a win-lose situation. I'm right, you're wrong. Collaborating is a win-win. We're working together. Compromising is a win-win because we're finding the middle ground. Avoiding, that is a lose-lose. After you, nobody's kind of coming to any conflict resolution. There's just consistent conflict. And then that ultimately damages the relationship. Along with accommodating, that sometimes can lead to a lose-lose situation as well, because if you're not going to be honest and open with what you truly need or what was communicated with you, and you just kind of let somebody else take over and you know that it's going in the direction it should not be going, you're not helping anybody. You're not helping the situation and you're not helping your peer. You always want to make sure that you are collaborating and compromising within reason. Conflict is inevitable, but conflict resolution skills are so important and impactful in our lives. Remember, we want to actively listen. We want to be clear and respectful. We want to use I statements. We want to make sure that we are not only becoming better communicators, but we're also strengthening relationships with family. Those are the relationships that are probably the most important to us at our core, and those are the people we really want to strive to understand us. Making sure that we're doing all we can to do that is so important. And hopefully by now you've kind of been able to sit back and understand, oh wow, I might have had this type of conflict skills and I might have been an avoidant person, but now I have some tips and some tools that will help me moving forward.